Widow stood alone against the town's judgment. Until a silent cowboy chose her side, the desert sun blazed down over the distant frontier colony, painting the jagged cliffs in shades of orange and gold. Clara wiped sweat from her brow as she walked across the dry land surrounding her homestead. Her late husband's small farm sat alone at the edge of the town, a mix of wooden fences, solar panels, and small hovering irrigation drones. The wind kicked up dust that clung to her boots and the hem of her dress, but Clara moved steadily, determined to keep the land running for her young daughter, Leela. The town had changed after her husband's sudden death. Once, neighbors greeted her with smiles. Now their eyes avoided hers, and whispers followed her wherever she went. People blamed her for accidents and failures they could not explain. The council had already sent notices warning her to leave the land. If she didn't prove she could manage on her own, they said, she would lose everything. Clara tightened her hands around the handle of the water drone control. She guided it to the far edge of the field, scanning the ground as it moved. Strange tracks glimmered faintly in the soil, tracks that looked like nothing she had seen before. Small, circular impressions with a soft blue glow. She bent down to examine them. The pattern was deliberate, careful, and alien. Her heart thumped. Whoever made them was watching, but for what? As she stood, dust swirling around her, Clara felt a sudden presence. Her gaze lifted to the ridge above the farm. A figure emerged, a lone cowboy atop a hoverbike that hovered slightly above the ground. He was tall and silent, dressed in the wide-brimmed hat and long coat of a classic cowboy, but with a metallic shine in his boots and a glimmering visor over his eyes. His bike made no sound as he descended toward her, moving with calm, precise control. Clara's first instinct was fear. She stepped back, shielding Leela, who had been following her at a distance. The cowboy stopped a few feet away, scanning the desert with a high-tech scope. Then, slowly, he looked at her and nodded once. His expression was unreadable behind the visor, but there was a quiet strength in his stance, something that told Clara he was not there to hurt her. "Who are you?" she asked, her voice steady despite the tension. The cowboy did not answer immediately. Instead, he gestured toward the glowing tracks in the dirt. Clara followed his gesture and felt a shiver run down her spine. Somehow, he understood exactly what had been troubling her. I don't know what they are," she said, voice low. "But they started appearing after my husband, after he died." He finally spoke, a calm, measured voice. "Someone wants to push you off this land. I can help." Clara stared at him, unsure whether to trust this stranger. She had learned to rely on no one since her husband's death. Yet something about the way he stood, silent, alert, but not threatening, gave her a strange sense of hope. "I don't need help," she said, but her words lacked conviction. She had spent nights thinking of ways to protect her farm, and her plans alone felt fragile and insufficient. The cowboy tilted his head, scanning the horizon with the scope again. He pointed to a distant line of small, hovering drones moving toward the town. "They're monitoring. They want to see if you can be forced off. We should check this out." Clara hesitated. The desert was dangerous at night, and the town itself had become hostile. But she nodded. If someone could help her discover who was behind her husband's death, maybe she could finally prove herself. As they walked toward the ridge, Clara noticed his movements were fluid, confident, almost unnatural in their precision. He adjusted his gloves and visor, tapping on small screens embedded in his coat. He moved like someone who had survived countless dangers and had learned to watch everything at once. "Are you a sheriff?" she asked, trying to make sense of him. He shook his head. "Not exactly. I help people. Sometimes that means standing outside the law." Clara's heart skipped. Someone outside the law? Could she trust that? She looked around. The desert stretched endlessly, with only a few scattered outposts visible in the distance. If anyone was going to help her, it would be someone brave enough to face danger without orders. The cowboy stopped at the edge of the ridge, crouching to examine the glowing tracks. He traced them with a gloved hand, scanning them with a small, wrist-mounted device. The blue glow pulsed slightly, reacting to the scan. "These are not ordinary tracks," he said softly. "They're advanced tech, alien in origin. Someone is using it to spy or threaten you. Your husband, his death might not have been an accident." Clara felt her stomach tighten. The words she had feared to speak out loud were now confirmed by this stranger. She had suspected sabotage, but hearing it said aloud made the fear real. "Then they'll try again," she whispered. "They'll come for me for the land." He nodded. "They will, but we can be ready." They returned to the farm under the dimming light of the twin moons. Clara showed him her home, the small house and the field. She explained the irrigation systems her husband had built and how she had maintained them alone. She showed him the little tunnels she had discovered leading beneath the property, hidden from the town's view. The cowboy, whose name she learned was Ryder, studied everything carefully. He offered advice without commanding, showing her how to reinforce weak points, how to camouflage the tracks, and how to monitor movement with the drones more effectively. Clara realized that with his help she could defend the farm, not just physically but legally, by gathering evidence that would prove her innocence and strength. Night fell over the desert, and the first stars appeared in the purple sky. Clara and Ryder watched the horizon, waiting. The desert was quiet except for the hum of the hovering drones. Every so often, the soft glimmer of alien tech would appear in the distance, and Ryder would mark it, tracking its path. Clara felt something she had not felt in months, hope. For the first time, she believed she could protect her land and her daughter. Ryder's silent support was enough. She didn't need him to speak, to command, or to fight for her. His presence alone, calm and steady, was a shield. Leela crept out of the house and ran to her mother's side, eyes wide. "Mom, who is he?" Clara knelt down, placing a hand on her daughter's shoulder. "Someone who might help us," she said softly. "Someone who believes we can fight back." Ryder remained at the edge of the ridge, watching the desert, silent as the night. Clara knew that tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps attacks, perhaps betrayal, but tonight they had found a quiet alliance. The widow would not face the town alone anymore, and the silent cowboy had chosen her side. As the wind swept across the desert, Clara felt a renewed determination. She would protect her farm. She would uncover the truth about her husband's death. And she would teach Leela that courage and hope could survive even in the harshest, most unforgiving worlds. The moons rose high in the sky, casting silver light over the land. Ryder's hoverbike hummed softly as he adjusted a scanner and observed the distant shadows. The night stretched ahead, full of uncertainty, danger, and possibilities. But for the first time in many months, Clara believed that with strategy, courage, and a little help from an unexpected ally, she could stand against the judgment of the town. The desert was vast, the nights were long, and the town was full of whispers. But the widow was no longer alone. And the silent cowboy would be watching, always ready, always steady. The morning sun rose over the desert colony, spilling golden light across Clara's homestead. The wind was calm, and the 2 moons of the previous night had vanished behind the horizon. Clara moved through the fields, checking the automated irrigation drones. Each one hummed softly, moving in precise patterns, keeping the crops alive in the dry soil. Her daughter, Leela, played nearby, carefully collecting small rocks and examining them like treasures. Clara's mind was not on the rocks. She thought about the strange tracks from last night, the glowing technology, and Ryder, the silent cowboy who had appeared like a shadow in her life. She still could not fully trust him, but the evidence of his skill and insight was undeniable. With him, she felt that for the first time since her husband's death, she had a chance to protect her land. Ryder approached from the ridge, his hoverbike gliding smoothly over the terrain. He dismounted without a sound, boots touching the dust softly. Clara noticed the way he scanned the area, his visor flickering with light as he analyzed every shadow. "They've been moving during the night," Ryder said quietly. "The tracks weren't random. Someone is testing the defenses, watching how you respond." Clara nodded. "I know. I've been too tired to think clearly, but it feels like we're not alone, even when the town looks empty." Ryder pointed toward the edge of the property, where the desert met the canyon cliffs. "We should investigate, follow the tracks. They may lead to the source of the threat, or at least a clue." Clara swallowed, fear mixing with determination. She had spent months alone, fending off the suspicion of neighbors and council members. The idea of facing unknown danger with someone else at her side was both frightening and reassuring. She gathered her daughter and their supplies, a small pack with basic tools, water, and a compact scanner her husband had left behind, and followed Ryder toward the glowing tracks. The desert stretched endlessly as they moved, the ground cracked and dry beneath their feet. Strange shadows shifted across the rocks, but Ryder's careful scanning revealed nothing dangerous. Yet, Clara kept glancing at him, noticing the precision in his movements. He was careful but not hesitant. Every gesture was calculated, every pause measured. She realized that he had likely faced dangers she could not imagine. After several hours, the tracks led them to a narrow canyon. The blue glow intensified along the walls, and Clara could see faint shapes etched into the rocks, symbols and designs that pulsed with energy. Ryder knelt, tracing the patterns with a gloved hand and a small scanning device. "These are alien markings," he explained. "They are not dangerous in themselves, but they can signal devices or traps hidden nearby." Clara's heart raced. She had always imagined a quiet, lonely frontier life after her husband's death, but now she found herself navigating a mystery far beyond her imagination. She glanced at Ryder. "Do you think this, whoever did this, meant to hurt me?" Ryder stood and scanned the canyon entrance. "It's possible. More likely, they want control of your land. It's valuable. Your husband may have discovered something they wanted. Someone wants you gone so they can take it." Clara's hands tightened into fists. "They won't get it," she said, voice firm. "I won't let them." Ryder's visor reflected the sunlight as he looked at her. "Good. Determination is as important as skill, but we must be careful. We don't know how many are involved." The two of them continued deeper into the canyon. Strange sounds echoed faintly, a soft hum that made Clara's skin tingle. Small hovering drones emerged from the shadows, sleek and silent. Ryder reacted instantly, pulling a small handheld pulse device and sending a wave that disabled the drones. They fell from the air, harmlessly rolling to the ground. Clara gasped. "What are those?" "Surveillance," Ryder replied. "They've been monitoring your homestead for weeks. Whoever sent them is organized, and they know what they are doing. That's why we must be careful and not rush." As they moved further, they discovered a small cave hidden behind a boulder. Inside, faint light glowed from more alien devices, some broken, others still active. Clara realized these were likely the source of the glowing tracks and markings. Ryder scanned everything, noting the placement and function of the devices. "Your husband must have found these," Ryder said, "and he likely paid the price for it." Clara's stomach sank. The truth she had been trying to avoid was becoming clear. Someone had wanted the technology, and her husband had stood in their way. She swallowed hard, but her determination only grew. "Then we need to make sure I don't pay the price too," she said, her voice steady. Ryder nodded. "Exactly. We prepare, we gather evidence, and we defend the homestead. No one can take it from you if we're smart." They spent the rest of the day collecting data, carefully documenting the alien devices and the patterns they formed. Ryder showed Clara how to use the scanner to track energy pulses and detect movement. He taught her basic defensive strategies, combining Old West tactics with futuristic technology. Clara quickly learned, her confidence growing with each new skill. As evening fell, they returned to the homestead. The town's council would be meeting soon, and rumors had already started spreading about Clara and her daughter. Some settlers whispered that Clara was hiding secrets, while others suspected that a stranger had arrived to help her. Leela ran to her mother as they reached the house. "Mom, did you see anything dangerous?" she asked, eyes wide with curiosity. Clara smiled, brushing a strand of hair from her daughter's face. "Yes, but we handled it. We're safe for now." Ryder remained on the ridge, silent as ever, scanning the desert. He was a guardian in the shadows, a steady presence that Clara had come to rely on without fully understanding why. His actions spoke louder than words. He was not there to take control, but to guide and protect. That night, Clara sat by the small fire outside the house, Leela asleep inside. She reviewed the scans from the canyon, her mind racing with possibilities. The devices were advanced, far beyond anything the settlers had seen. If the town discovered them, it could cause panic, or worse, they could be used against her. Ryder approached the fire quietly, sitting down without a word. The desert wind swept across the plains, carrying the scent of dust and dry grass. Clara glanced at him, feeling a strange sense of calm despite the danger. "Tomorrow," Ryder said finally, we gather more evidence and secure the homestead. You'll need to show the council that you are not alone, that you can defend yourself, and that you have proof of what happened." Clara nodded. "I understand, but what if they don't listen? What if they still try to force me out?" Ryder's eyes, hidden behind the visor, were steady. "Then we show them that you won't be intimidated. You have courage, skill, and knowledge that is more powerful than threats or whispers." Clara took a deep breath. She had spent so long feeling powerless, blamed for things she did not cause. But now, with Ryder's guidance and the evidence she was collecting, she could fight back. She could protect her daughter. She could stand for herself. As the fire crackled and the night deepened, Clara felt a spark of determination she had not felt in months. Tomorrow would bring new challenges. The council, the townspeople, and perhaps the unknown agents behind the alien devices. But she would not face them alone. Ryder had chosen her side, and together they would face the dangers of the desert frontier. Above them, the stars of the distant galaxy twinkled, and the two moons cast soft light over the land. Clara realized that the frontier was not just a place of danger. It was a place of opportunity, courage, and unexpected alliances. She would survive, and she would fight for her home, for her daughter, and for the truth. Ryder stood silently beside her, scanning the horizon once more. The desert was quiet, but Clara knew the night was only the beginning. Tomorrow, the town's judgment would come, and she would be ready. For the first time in a long while, she felt hope, not just for survival, but for victory. The next morning, Clara woke to the sharp hum of the irrigation drones moving across the farm. The air was dry, but there was a subtle chill from the desert dawn. Leela was already awake, picking flowers that struggled to grow in the cracked soil. Clara watched her daughter for a moment, feeling a pang of determination. She would protect this home, no matter what. Ryder was already outside, scanning the perimeter with his visor. He made no sound, but his presence was reassuring. Clara gathered her courage and joined him. Today, the council would hold a meeting to discuss her case. They would decide whether she could keep her land or be forced out. "They'll try to intimidate you," Ryder said quietly. "Many of the council members want this land. Some are afraid of what you might have found. But we are ready. We have evidence and you have skill. That is enough." Clara nodded. She had spent hours reviewing the data from the alien devices hidden in the canyon. They proved her husband had not died by accident. Someone had sabotaged him, and their plan had nearly succeeded. Now she had proof. But she also knew that people feared what they could not understand, and the town might be swayed by whispers and rumors instead of facts. As they approached the council building, the town seemed unusually quiet. The streets were lined with settlers, many watching Clara and Ryder with suspicion. Some whispered harsh words, while others simply looked away. The council chamber itself was a mix of old Western woodwork and sleek metallic panels, a reminder that this colony combined tradition with technology. Inside, the council members sat at a long table. Mechanical panels flickered and displayed maps of the settlement and nearby lands. Clara noticed the same council member who had always looked at her with thinly veiled hostility. His name was Harland, and he had a sharp, angular face and a voice that carried authority. "Clara," he said, voice smooth but cutting, "we are here to discuss your claim to the homestead. Many have raised concerns about your ability to manage the land. Some say you are reckless, others that you are hiding unusual activity. What do you say to that?" Clara took a deep breath. She held her head high and spoke clearly. "I say that I have worked this land for myself and for my daughter. I have maintained the irrigation systems, cared for the crops, and protected this property. I have also discovered evidence that my husband's death was caused by sabotage. This land is mine, and I will not let anyone take it unfairly." Murmurs spread through the council chamber. Some council members looked concerned, others skeptical. Ryder stood silently behind Clara, scanning the room. His presence alone seemed to make the council members uneasy. They were not used to outsiders who were calm, confident, and clearly capable of defending themselves. "Evidence?" Harland asked, leaning forward. "What evidence do you have?" Clara motioned to Ryder, who activated a small holographic projector. The device displayed the tracks, the alien devices, and the patterns etched into the canyon walls. Energy pulses from the devices glowed faintly in the projection. Clara explained each detail carefully, showing how the technology had been used to monitor the homestead and likely led to her husband's death. The council members whispered among themselves. Some looked shocked, others angry. One of the older members, a woman named Marga, spoke up. "If this is true, then the danger to the town could have been serious. These devices, they are not simple, they are advanced, and someone used them against one of our own." Harlan's expression darkened. "This is unproven. These are just claims, and you have a stranger here with you. How do we know we can trust him?" Ryder stepped forward slightly. "You do not need to trust me. My role is to protect the widow and her property. The evidence speaks for itself. And if anyone tries to interfere unfairly, I am capable of defending the settlement without harming anyone unnecessarily." A few council members exchanged uneasy glances. Ryder's calm, confident stance, combined with the holographic evidence, made it clear that Clara was not alone and that any attempt to force her out could lead to serious consequences. Clara spoke again. "I do not ask for special treatment. I ask for fairness. My husband was killed and the saboteurs intended to take the land. I will not allow them to succeed. I have proof and I am ready to defend myself." The council deliberated. The discussion was tense, with some members siding with Clara, recognizing the danger and the injustice she had suffered, while others remained loyal to Harland and his attempts to seize control of her land. Ryder watched silently, prepared to intervene if threats escalated. After what felt like hours, Marga stood. "The evidence is compelling. It cannot be ignored. Clara has demonstrated courage, knowledge, and resilience. She has also brought forward proof of wrongdoing. I believe she should retain her land." Harland slammed his hand on the table. "This is preposterous. You cannot allow her to keep property under such circumstances." Ryder's voice, calm but firm, cut through the tension. "It is not about favoritism. It is about truth. The evidence shows that Clara's husband was sabotaged. The land belongs to her. Attempts to remove her unfairly will be met with resistance." The chamber fell silent. Even Harland hesitated. Ryder's reputation as a silent but effective protector was known across several settlements. His words, combined with the holographic proof, left little room for manipulation. Finally, the council voted. The majority agreed with Clara, allowing her to keep the homestead. Harland scowled, but even he could not argue with the combined proof and Ryder's presence. Clara felt a wave of relief, but she did not let her guard down. She knew that threats might not be over. Those who had tried to harm her husband could still return, and the alien technology might attract others seeking its power. Outside the council building, Clara breathed deeply. The town's judgment had been made, but the desert remained a place of uncertainty. Ryder approached, his visor catching the sunlight. "You handled that well," he said. "You stood your ground, presented facts, and kept calm." "That is what made the difference." Clara smiled, exhaustion and relief mixing together. "I couldn't have done it without you," she admitted. "You gave me guidance, but mostly you made me believe I could do it." Ryder nodded. "Sometimes people just need someone to show them the path. You walked it yourself. I only helped light the way." As they returned to the homestead, Clara noticed that some townspeople watched them with newfound respect. Whispers had changed from suspicion to admiration. For the first time in months, Clara felt the possibility of acceptance. That night, as Leela slept, Clara and Ryder walked the perimeter of the property. The desert was quiet, but the faint hum of alien devices remained a reminder of potential danger. Ryder's presence was steady, giving her confidence. "We need to be vigilant," Ryder said. "Those who sought your husband's death may still be nearby. The devices could attract attention. We must keep watch and prepare." Clara nodded, scanning the horizon. She had come far from the frightened widow of last year. Now, with knowledge, evidence, and Ryder at her side, she felt empowered. She would not let fear dictate her life or the future of her daughter. The desert wind whispered through the canyon, carrying the scent of dust and dry grass. Clara knew that life on the frontier was unpredictable, that challenges would continue to appear, and that the balance between courage and caution was delicate. But she also knew that she had allies, and she had strength she had never recognized before. The moons rose, casting pale light across the farm. Clara stood at the ridge, looking at her land, her daughter, and Ryder. The danger was not gone, but she was ready. She had faced the council, revealed the truth, and survived. She had learned that standing alone was not weakness, and that sometimes trust could be given to those who proved themselves through action rather than words. Ryder's hoverbike hummed softly as he scanned the perimeter one last time. Clara watched him, feeling a mixture of gratitude and resolve. The night was long, the desert vast, but she was no longer powerless. The widow had become a protector of her own home, guided by the silent cowboy who had chosen her side. In the quiet of the desert, Clara allowed herself a moment of peace. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, perhaps even threats from those still seeking the alien devices. But she would face them with courage, intelligence, and the knowledge that she was not alone. The stars twinkled above, distant and constant. Clara knew that the frontier was not only a place of danger, but a place where strength, skill, and alliances could define the future. And she was ready to shape hers. The morning air was crisp, and the desert horizon stretched endlessly as Clara stepped outside her homestead. The wind carried the faint scent of dust and dry grass. Her crops glimmered under the twin suns, fed by the automated drones that hovered tirelessly above the fields. The past few days had been a whirlwind of fear, discovery, and confrontation with the town council, but Clara knew the danger was not entirely gone. Whoever had caused her husband's death might still linger, waiting for an opportunity to strike. Ryder stood at the edge of the ridge, scanning the perimeter. His hoverbike hovered silently, the faint hum blending with the desert wind. Clara approached him, feeling a mixture of gratitude and resolve. "We need to secure the homestead completely," she said. "I can't risk anything happening to Leela or this land." Ryder nodded. "Agreed. The council has judged in your favor, but the threat remains. Some people will not give up easily, and others may be drawn by the alien devices you discovered. We need to prepare for all possibilities." Together, they spent the morning reinforcing the perimeter. Clara learned to use the small defensive tools her husband had left behind: wrist-mounted sensors, automated alarms, and compact energy shields. Ryder guided her, showing her how to combine the Old West style of vigilance with futuristic technology. Every corner of the homestead was checked, every weak point fortified. Leela watched curiously from a safe distance, helping when she could, her eyes wide with admiration for her mother's courage. By mid-afternoon, the settlement seemed calm, almost deceptively so. Clara and Ryder patrolled the boundaries, scanning for the faint glow of alien devices or the subtle movement of intruders. Ryder's visor flickered as he detected minor energy pulses in the distance. "Someone is testing our defenses," he said. "They're observing from afar, but they have not approached directly." Clara's heart raced. The town council's judgment had been in her favor, but it was clear that her enemies were clever and cautious. She understood that the battle to protect her land and uncover the full truth was far from over. As the sun began to dip toward the horizon, Ryder motioned for Clara to stop. In the distance, near the canyon where they had found the alien devices, shadows moved unnaturally. Small, hovering drones emerged, sleek and silent, scanning the desert. Ryder raised a hand, signaling Clara to stay calm. With a swift motion, he activated a pulse device that neutralized the drones without harming them. They fell softly to the sand, disabled but intact. Clara exhaled, feeling a mixture of fear and relief. "They're persistent," she said, "but I won't let them intimidate me." Ryder's visor reflected the setting suns. "Persistence is expected, but they underestimated you. You are ready to defend yourself and this homestead. And if necessary, we can take the fight to them." Night fell, painting the desert in deep purples and blues. Clara lit a small fire outside, keeping it low to avoid drawing attention. Leela slept inside, exhausted from the day's tension. Ryder stayed on the ridge, silent and alert, scanning the perimeter. Clara watched the stars, distant points of light against the vast darkness. She realized that she had grown stronger, more confident, and more capable than she had imagined. Suddenly, a faint hum broke the quiet. Clara tensed, recognizing the sound from the alien devices. Ryder's visor flickered as he traced the source. "They're approaching the canyon," he said. "I think it's time we confront this directly." Clara nodded, determination hardening in her chest. She grabbed a small pack containing the scanners, lights, and defensive tools, following Ryder into the canyon. The shadows were long and strange, cast by the uneven terrain and the soft glow of hidden devices. Clara's senses were heightened. Every movement, every sound could signal danger. At the heart of the canyon, they discovered a small group of individuals, outsiders who had been attempting to recover the alien devices for their own gain. Ryder raised a hand, signaling Clara to stay calm. "We do not need to fight recklessly," he whispered. "Show them you are in control, not them." Clara stepped forward, holding the scanner as evidence. "These devices belong to the homestead," she said firmly. "They were used to harm my husband and threaten my family. I will not allow you to take them, or this land." The outsiders hesitated, clearly surprised by her courage and Ryder's silent presence. One of them, a tall figure in a hooded cloak, stepped forward. "We only want what is valuable. Step aside and no one will be harmed." Clara's gaze did not waver. "You will not take it. You will leave or face consequences. The council supports me and this land is protected." Ryder moved slightly, not threatening but ready. His calm confidence gave Clara strength. She realized that the silent cowboy had taught her more than just defense. He had shown her how to stand tall, speak clearly, and face danger without fear. The leader of the outsiders scowled but finally nodded. Very well. We will leave for now, but be warned, others may come. Clara exhaled, relief washing over her. We will be ready, she said. Ryder nodded silently beside her. As they returned to the homestead, Clara felt a sense of victory, not just for herself, but for Leela and the memory of her husband. She had faced the council, the town, and now intruders, and had emerged stronger each time. She understood that courage and careful planning were just as important as any weapon or device. That night, Clara stood at the edge of her land, watching the stars glimmer above the desert. Ryder's hoverbike rested quietly nearby, but he remained vigilant. Clara realized that the frontier was not only dangerous, but also full of possibilities, opportunities to protect, to fight for justice, and to build a life in the face of adversity. Leela slept peacefully inside, unaware of the dangers her mother had faced. Clara felt a surge of determination. She would continue to protect this home, uncover the truth about her husband's death, and prepare for any future threats. The desert was vast, and life on the frontier was unpredictable, but she had learned that fear could be faced, challenges could be overcome, and allies could appear when least expected. Ryder approached quietly. The town will respect your strength now, he said. But remember, vigilance is key. This land may attract others. You must be ready. Clara smiled, gratitude in her eyes. I understand, and I will be ready. The desert night was calm, but Clara knew it was only a temporary peace. The frontier demanded courage, intelligence, and resilience. She had discovered all three within herself, and with Ryder by her side, she felt capable of facing whatever the desert and the galaxy might throw at her. As the moons cast silver light across the homestead, Clara allowed herself a moment of peace. She was no longer a frightened widow. She was a protector, a mother, and a defender of her home. The silent cowboy had chosen her side, and together they had confronted threats, exposed truth, and ensured the safety of the homestead. The stars above reminded her that the universe was vast, full of challenges and opportunities. Clara's journey was far from over, but she had learned that strength could come from unexpected allies, courage could rise in the face of fear, and justice could be achieved through determination and wisdom. Ryder stayed silent, his presence steady and reassuring. Clara knew that with him nearby, she was never truly alone. The frontier was wild, unpredictable, and sometimes dangerous, but it was also a place where bravery, intelligence, and resilience could prevail. As the desert wind swept across the plains, Clara felt a renewed sense of purpose. She would continue to protect her land, her daughter, and the memory of her husband. The council had judged fairly, the intruders had been repelled, and the homestead was secure, for now. Clara watched Ryder disappear into the ridge's shadows briefly, scanning the distant horizon. She knew he would remain vigilant, a silent guardian ensuring that justice prevailed. The desert, with all its dangers, had become a place where she could stand tall and face any challenge. And for the first time in a long while, Clara felt truly empowered.